The Great American Bison are often referred to as the American buffalo, and they used to roam both in the east and in the west. However, these fascinating animals were eradicated in the eastern states by hunters and European settlers, with Tennessee and Kentucky seeing their last buffalo herds by the early 1820s. Out on the western plains, however, it was a different story. Bison were thriving in numbers, with more herds in Texas and South Dakota than a man can count. Pretty soon, bison became synonymous with the American West, with Native Americans depending heavily upon them as a valuable resource, everything from food and clothing to making weapons out of bone. However, nothing can last forever, and pretty soon industrialization and so-called progress started to appear on the horizon. The first commercial railroad track in the United States was laid by Gridley Bryant, an American construction engineer. His company, the Granite Railway, began operations October 7th of 1826 in Quincy, Massachusetts. The 3-mile track was built to transport heavy stone to the Neapontent River, where the materials were then barged to Charlestown to build the Bunker Hill Monument. And in 1827, the Baltimore and Ohio became the nation's first charter to transport both passengers and freight. So it was only a matter of time before the rails led west and straight into the hunting grounds of the American buffalo. William F. Cody was hired in 1867 to hunt bison for the Kansas Pacific Railroad. His job was simple: feed the men while they laid the tracks across the Great Plains. And quite frankly, it was a job he was well suited for. Matter of fact, it's how he earned his famous nickname, Buffalo Bill Cody. Over a span of 18 months, he killed over 4,000 bison to supply the camps. And then come the hide hunters. Hide hunting was detrimental to the bison populations all across the American West. Some of these men would write about their experiences later on in life, and some would express deep regret. Hide hunters spent the majority of their time away from any major town, so instead of trying to cut up the meat and get it to market before it would spoil, they simply left it. After the hunters took the hides and the meat rotted away, massive piles of skeletons were left behind. Later on, bone pickers would collect the remaining skeletons to sell to markets for fertilizer and glue. Because of this, Native Americans were forced to watch helplessly as bison herds were decimated. And tragically for many Native American tribes, this truly was the end, as they were forced from their homes on the plains, forced to leave all they ever knew behind, and now forced onto reservations to rely on a government that could not or would not be bothered to help them. Truly a tragic chapter indeed in our American history, and one that should always be remembered. Once upon a time, there was an abundance of American bison in the hunting grounds of the American West, and the Plains Indians, they rejoiced. Put another log on that fire,